Did we go? Are we going?
We're going.
Hey, Theresa, guess what?
Guess what? I don't know
It's-
what.
Welcome to the end of January where our minds have been scrambled. It's been fun. It's been different. But the end of January, guess what happens next, Theresa?
February?
February, which is, as I've been told, a month dedicated to love.
Oh.
Yeah. That's just what I've been told. And what better way to celebrate that, maybe get in the mood than reading a romance book.
Oh, I like that idea. I think it would be fun.
But here's the thing. What
What?
if you don't just want to read a romance book? You also want to read a fantasy book.
Oh, so wait. Is there like a combination that you can do?
Why, yes, Theresa, there is. Join us for this week on our infomercial for now. Just slap the slap cup again. No, I don't know.
What?
I turned into Billy Mays for a moment. If you are joining us, welcome. We love to see you. We're happy that you're here. Here in our book tastings, which we've done a few now, we will read the first pages of books in a certain genre. And this month, to get everybody kind of in the mood for February, we've picked Romantasy books.
Woo! Yay! Romantasy.
Yeah. And I think we have a good diversity in our Romantasy books.
Mhm.
And we also have our cocktail of the...
We do.
Oh, this doesn't do well with... Here we go.
It's a very clear cocktail.
Yeah.
It has a slight pink tint.
Yep. So basically if you're on our Discord, you can find the cocktail there, or we'll just tell you it's pink lemonade vodka with your favorite clear bubbly soda. So I've got Pink Whitney and ginger ale. Theresa, your variation is...
I did lime bubbly and what is it? Pink lemonade vodka, which my husband brought that bottle home and I was like, oh, that is a bottle. I should have brought it up here. That is a bottle. It is the pinkest bottle I've ever seen.
It's like neon pink.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I don't like it straight. It's too sweet, but you put it with this. And anyway, we got our pink little bevies. So hopefully you're having fun. Hopefully you join us. Whether you're here with a bevy or not, maybe you just have water. That's okay. What else do we want to say about Romantasy, or do we want to jump in, Theresa?
So I have a question before we jump in.
Yeah.
What is Romantasy? It's a brand new genre. It's taking the world by storm, but what exactly is it?
That is a great question. And honestly, like in some ways it's a little nebulous, but I think the best definition and the best rule of thumb is it's a romance that takes place in a fantasy setting. Yep. Right? And it has elements of fantasy. There might be dragons or vampires or magic or some combination or whatever it might be. And also a romance that takes front and center stage in the plot of the story.
Yep.
And for a long time, there have been books that have that, but maybe just weren't labeled as Romantasy.
Yes.
And so it gets really popular. I think, one of the authors that kind of popularized this movement, let's say it that way, is lover or hater Sarah J. Maas. Mm-hmm. We're actually not going to read any Sarah J. Maas books today. I think this is my opinion on SJM, which is a lot of people already know who she is. A lot of people have already been exposed to her writing, and they have strong opinions about it, whether good or bad. And with our book tastings here, we want to kind of expose us to new things. So you probably maybe already know who Sarah J. Maas is. Maybe you've already read her books. So we don't need to put her in our book tasting. We're going to try some other things.
Oh, good. And Seeing the World really enjoys this genre. So feel free to jump in and say what your favorite book is, or whatever book you're currently reading too, because some big ones just came out in the genre.
Yeah.
So are we ready to begin?
I think we're ready to begin. Are you going to start with the big one, Theresa?
I think I'm going to start with the one I just finished. I don't know if it's the big one or not, but we'll go with that one.
It's very popular, so I think it's a big one.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first page. If you know what it is, feel free to pop it in the chat. You will probably know what it is. Okay, so this, and actually, I love that this author does this. It actually, every chapter starts with something that sets the stage in this world. So some sort of a sentence or a paragraph from a writing in this world. A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A rider without a dragon is dead. Article 1, Section 1, the Dragon Riders Codex. Chapter 1. Conscription Day is always the deadliest. Maybe that's why the sunrise is especially beautiful this morning, because I know it might be my last. I tighten the straps of my heavy canvas rucksack and trudge up the wide staircase of the stone fortress I call home. My chest heaves with exertion, my lungs burning by the time I reach the stone corridor leading to General Sorengale's office. This is what 6 months of intense physical training has given me. The ability to barely climb 6 flights of stairs with a 30-pound pack. I'm so fucked. The thousands of 20-year-olds waiting outside the gate to enter their chosen quadrant for service are the smartest and strongest in Navir. Hundreds of them have been prepping for the Riders Quadrant, the chance to become one of the elite since birth. I've had exactly 6 months. The expressionless guards lining the wide hallway at the top of the landing avoid my eyes as I pass, but that's nothing new. Besides, being ignored is the best possible scenario for me. Basayev War College isn't known for being kind to, well, anyone, even those of us whose mothers are in command. Every Navarian officer, whether they choose to be schooled as healers, scribes, infantry, or riders, is molded within these cruel walls over 3 years, honed into weapons to secure our mountainous borders from the violent invasion attempts of the kingdom of Poromel and their griffin riders. The weak don't survive here, especially not in the Riders Quadrant. The dragons make sure of that. You're sending her to die, a familiar voice thunders through the general's thick wooden door, and I gasp. There's only one woman on the continent foolish enough to raise her voice to the general, but she's supposed to be on the border with the Eastern Wing. Mira. There's a ruffled response from the office, and I reach the door handle. She doesn't stand a chance, Mira shouts as I force the heavy door open and the weight of my pack shifts forward, nearly taking me down. Shit. The general curses from behind her desk, and I grab onto the back of the crimson upholstered couch to catch my balance. Damn it, Mom, she can't even handle her rucksack, Mira snaps, rushing to my side. I'm fine. My cheeks heat with mortification, and I force myself upright. She's been back for 5 minutes and is already trying to save me. Because you need saving, you fool. I don't want to do this. I don't want any part of this Riders Quadrant shit. It's not like I have a death wish. I would have been better off failing the admission test and going straight to the army with the majority of conscripts. But I can handle my rucksack, and I will handle myself. And that's the first page. Molly says she knows this one.
Oh, yeah. I know this one.
Anybody want to put in the chat which one this one is?
While we're seeing if anybody else recognizes this, one of the things that I really like about this first page, we talk about first pages a lot, right? And this one does so much, right? We get world building, we get characterization, we get stakes right away, stakes at multiple levels. Like we know right away, like she might die today. We know right away that like there's a war going on between her kingdom and another kingdom. We know like there's like layers of stakes that we're exposed to right away. We have characterization with her and her connection with other people, right? Her mom, who's a general, her sister, who's also very intimidating. I love like so much so fast.
Yeah. And it's well done too. And it's very well layered to where you're not like, wait, what is happening? You're just like, I'm all in. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening. I don't know who General Sorengale is. I don't know who Mira is. I don't even know who this character is. But
but I'm here.
I'm here. She just, 6 months. She's struggling to carry her rucksack. I don't know where she's going, but
It's
I'm all in.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. There's tension between family members. All the family members are women, and there's like a dynamic, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah. Very, very difficult to do properly. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of tries to get your first couple of pages, especially in a genre like this that is not contemporary, to make it so that it's not confusing. You're not oversharing. You're not info dumping information that makes the reader be like, I don't care. Just get me to the action. Very, very difficult to do. And honestly, very difficult for the author to do themselves.
Oh yeah.
You really need a lot of help to do this properly.
Yeah. And really great job as well. Like, it's really hard in fantasy. It's too many names and places and names you don't
Yes.
This one's not bad, right?
Mm.
I think the author even makes decisions to not, like, I think it's just called like War College or something like that.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. It's Basiga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then it like uses the name, then tells you what it is. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, War College. Great.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think, that's a good lesson for all of us. I
Mhm.
might be the only person who knows this one.
We're not getting anything in the chat. So this one is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And the third book just came out. So, and Molly recommended this one. I literally just finished it today. And I really enjoyed it. I've been doing a lot of, hey, good to see you, Natasha. Oh, man, I haven't seen you forever. I forgot what I was saying. I know. So one of the things I really like about this book, so I've been focusing an awful lot on what is a page turner, what makes, especially the romance genre, one of those ones that even though you know what's going to happen, you're reading like this, like, I really hope they get together, even though you know in your soul.
Yeah. This is a classic enemies to lovers, like, it's gonna happen,
Yeah, you have no doubt in your mind, but you're just like, I gotta know. So I've been actually studying an awful lot of what is behind that psychology. And this book does it really well. And a lot of what that is and this is coined by I have a book right here, T. Taylor. She comes up with this idea of this universal fantasy. And what that means is that is something that people tend to like and be attracted to and to kind of secretly want. So she uses if you're an author, I really recommend check out the Universal Fantasies. So the very, very common one is like the boss hole. Your boss is a jerk to you, but you can go ahead and make him into a better person. That's a very, very universal fantasy that a lot of women have. And those are the things, those universal fantasies, those are the things that make you keep turning your book, because that's what you kind of maybe want for yourself. Not to have a boss hole, but you can imagine yourself in that scenario very easily.
Yeah. If you like dragons, this is a book for you.
It is.
Right? You like dragons, you like a quirky character who maybe one of the things I like about the main character is that she has some physical limitations. And she figures out ways to work around her physical limitations, and it's not seen for the most part as a shameful thing.
Also
right?
a universal fantasy.
Yeah. So there's some interesting stuff there. Also for this romantasy, it is very steamy. It is very like
It
it's
is,
not
yeah.
a closed door romance. You get the goods.
And it goes on for quite some time
There's
too. Like,
multiple
yeah,
instances.
where I was like, how much longer is this scene going on?
You're like, I thought they were. Oh, they're not. They keep going. Okay. um.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh.
absolutely.
Yeah. Other things we want to say about this, or should we go to the next one?
I think let's go to the next one. And this next one's a surprise. Molly put this entire episode
Yes.
together.
Yes. So I say what it is at the end, right?
Mhm. Why not?
Okay. All right. So this one, I'm reading this off my phone. This one has a prologue. Natasha, I'm sure you're not a boss hole.
You are not. I know you are not.
Okay. Here we go. Cold fog had settled over the depot like a burial shroud, and Iris Winnow thought the weather couldn't have been better. She could hardly see the train through the gloam, but she could taste it in the evening air. Metal and smoke and burning coal all woven together with a trace of petrichor. The wooden platform was slick beneath her shoes, gleaming with rain puddles and piles of decaying leaves. When Forrest came to a stop at her side, she stopped as well, as if she were his mirror. The two of them were often mistaken for twins with their wide-set hazel eyes, wavy chestnut hair, and freckles that spilled across their noses. But Forrest was tall, Iris petite. He was 5 years her senior, and for the first time in her life, Iris wished that she were older than him. I won't be gone long, he said. Only a few months, I think. Her brother glanced at her in the fading light, waiting for her to respond. It was eveningtide, the moment between darkness and light, when the constellations began to dust the sky and the city lamps flickered to life in reply. Iris could feel the draw of it, Forrest's concerned stare and the golden light that illuminated the low-hanging clouds. And yet her eyes wandered, desperate for a distraction. A moment to blink away her tears before Forrest could see them. There was a soldier to her right, a young woman dressed in a perfectly starched uniform. Iris was struck by a wild thought, one that must have traveled across her face because Forrest cleared his throat. I should come with you, Iris said, meeting his gaze. It's not too late. I can enlist. No, Iris, Forrest replied sharply. You made me 2 promises, remember? 2 promises, hardly a day old. Iris frowned. How could I forget?
Very nice.
I don't know if anybody recognizes this one. I'll let people. This is also a very popular recent one. It is part of a duology. The duology is complete. This is the first book in the pair. And what else do I want to say? This is different. So the first one we read was obviously like dragon fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like not old. How would you describe it? Like there's no tech, right?
No, it's clear. There's dragons, there's magic.
Yeah.
Very, very clearly fantasy. They're not on computers or phones or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is industrial aged fantasy. So if you want to read, like there are trains and there are typewriters. Typewriters are a big part of the book. There are like it's like 1920s if 1920s had fantasy elements and gods and magic and stuff like that.
It's fascinating how broad the romantasy genre is. That's it. I'm rebranding Warehouse Dreams as romantasy.
We do, when we sell,
I know.
we often sell Warehouse Dreams at book fairs, right? And when we sell it, we often sell it on the romance angle.
Yep.
Yeah. And this one looks like nobody's guessing it. This one is a Rivals to Lovers. It's called, for those who didn't know, it's Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. It's a very good book. I actually highly recommend it. It is about 2 rival journalists who are trying to get a scoop in the war that is happening at the border of their country.
So, and that's why the typewriters come into play.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. There's a very interesting magical thing with typewriters.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So, question, because you've read a lot more of this genre than I have. Is the enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers almost a requirement?
No,
Okay.
no, you can have friends to lovers. You can have other things, right? They don't have to have like a animosity to each other to begin with. It's just a very common trope, I think.
It is. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think that that is a lot of what makes people turn the pages
Yeah.
is that fun, flirty banter, that will they, won't they. Yeah.
The second one I'm going to read is not a rivals or enemies to lovers. It's just they're strangers and then they end up becoming more, right? They meet,
Oh,
they start working together and that kind of thing, right?
yeah.
Um yeah.
But okay, now I'm just going to keep picking.
Yeah.
But okay, so I wonder if it is a strangers to lovers, friends to lovers. I wonder if the romance tends to take a step back, not a huge one, but a little bit of a step back because there isn't it to work on the tension factor of it.
See, I think it's just different, right? Because so like their relationship and how their relationship progresses, whether it's enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers, friends to lovers, um, nobody to lovers, right? They're strangers to lovers, whatever it might be. Like that's one aspect. But
Mhm.
there's a different aspect which is like, what's your spiciness level and then what's your burn rate, right? Is it a
Right.
slow burn or not? Right, that could be different. Like this book, Divine Rivals, is a slow burn. There's not, we talked about Fourth Wing being very, very steamy, lots of scenes, lots of
Mhm.
that. This is the opposite of that. I think they have maybe one cutaway, like fade to black scene. It is not a high spice level book. And it is a very slow burn type book, but it's still considered romantasy. So I think
Fascinating.
there's lots of room to play here.
Yeah. Well, and again, with it being so, and if you've been a fan of the semi sages for a little while now, you know that one of the things that I believe, and I know why genres exist. Genres exist to help with marketing, to help people find the book that they want. But as we continue to genre bend and combine things more and more, genre is starting to become less formulaic,
Mm.
less of a no, your genre is this, therefore you need ABC.
I think that's why, like, again, back to when we sell books, it is so much easier to start talking. And even when you're talking about like universal desires or universal fantasies, right? It is so much easier to relate to people with that. Right. It's so much easier to be like, okay, this is a rivals to lover book. This is a book where someone finds their found family and finds acceptance through whatever. Like, like those kinds of things are so much easier than be like, well, it's a fantasy, but it takes place here. And also there's this and also there's that. It like that doesn't actually tell me how I'm going to feel when I read your book. Right? Telling me that it is set in 1950s Chicago doesn't tell me how I'm going to feel when I read your book. And that's what readers connect with is that feeling, those
Mhm.
fantasies, I think.
It's a really interesting point because if you say your book is a mystery, you're expecting certain feelings. You're
Mhm.
expecting something to solve, a puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
Either you're watching people solve it or you're working to solve it. If it's a romance, you're expecting to feel romance. If it's horror, you're expecting to kind of feel a little scared. That's fascinating. The genre is tied to emotion.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But when you blend emotion, you start blending those feelings and
Mhm.
I always think it's and that's fine. I think that's fine, right? I just always think it's important, because we do try to like match people with books and we try to sell books. It's like, well, and you and I hear people pitch their book a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people make, I think, a mistake when they're pitching their book, and they start with setting, and they start with like world building information, and you, as like someone who wants to read a book, are just sitting there being like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
okay, there are crystals, and the crystals correspond to different layers of the different places in the city.
And there's a
Okay,
train and cool. Yeah.
people can move up and down the okay, why do I care? But anyway, that's maybe neither here nor there, but it's interesting, right?
Yeah. So when everyone's books are ready to come out and you're trying to sell them at events or trying to do your elevator pitch, that's the key. Hone into the emotion you want the reader to feel.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Ready to move to the next?
Yeah, hit us with the next one.
Okay. So this is another one that I read.
All right, this is another one I told you to read.
We were actually reading it at the same time. You were slightly ahead of
That's
where I
true.
was. And
That's
then I
true.
was like, Molly.
And I was like,
This book is weird.
Oops. Yep.
But anyway. Okay, here we go. This one opens with a prologue. This marriage is going to be a problem. She is going to be a problem. This war of ours, the one between the vampires and the wares, began several centuries ago with brutal escalations of violence, accumulated amid flowing torrents of varicolored blood, and ended in a whimper of buttercream cake on the day I met my husband for the first time, which, as it happens, was also the day of our wedding. Not quite the stuff of childhood dreams. Then again, I'm no dreamer. I only contemplated marriage once back in the gloomy days of my childhood. Following a few too harsh punishments and a poorly executed assassination attempt, Serena and I concocted plans for a grand escape, which was going to involve pyrotechnic space diversions, stealing our math tutor's car, and flipping off our caregivers in the rearview mirror. We'll stop by the animal shelter and adopt one of those shaggy dogs, pick up a Slurpee for me, some blood for you, disappear forever into human territory. Will they let me in if I'm not human? I asked, even though that was the least of our plan's flaws. We were both 11. Neither of us could drive. Interspecies peace in the southwestern region relied quite literally on me staying the hell put. I'll vouch for you. Will that be enough? I'll marry you. They'll believe you're human, my human wife. As proposals went, it seemed solid. So I nodded solemnly and said, I accept. That was 14 years ago, though, and Serena never married me. In fact, she's long gone. I'm here alone with a giant heap of expensive wedding favors that'll hopefully fool guests into overlooking the lack of love, genetic compatibility, or even a previous acquaintance between me and the groom. I did try to arrange a meeting, suggested to my people that they suggest to his people that we could grab lunch the week before the ceremony, coffee the previous day, a glass of tap water the morning, anything to avoid how do you do in front of the officiant. My request was escalated to the Vampire Council and resulted in a phone call from one of the members' aides. His tone managed to be polite while heavily implying I was a cuckoo nutbird. He's aware, a very powerful and dangerous where. Just the logistics of providing security for such a meeting would be. I'll be marrying this dangerous where, I pointed out evenly, and a bashful throat was cleared. He is an alpha, Miss Lark, too busy to meet. Busy with his pack, Miss Lark. I pictured him in a home gym, tirely working on his abs, and shrugged. I don't know where I went with my reading.
I love it.
I just really, I like this character an awful lot. So
yeah,
she was easy to play with.
I feel like you and I both appreciate how approachable this text is and how snarky the main character is. And I got through, for people wondering, I got through maybe 2 or 3 chapters, and I like messaged Theresa and I was like, you have to read this. The snark is perfect. It is on point. It's hilarious. And then Theresa is right. There's like a little, it's kind of like a weird sex thing.
There's a weird kink in it.
Yeah.
Learned it's stuff I didn't know.
It's not for either of us, I think. No. What we learned. We read despite that.
We did.
Yeah. because we both finished it.
Oh, it was actually really good. It was very entertaining, very enemies to lovers, which
Yep.
you know from the beginning. That is such a great setup. You know exactly what you're getting into. You know that there's wares, you know that there's vampires, you know that they're battling, and a wedding is going to save it all.
Yep. And this one also, yeah. This one also, like we've talked about different settings for fantasy, right? We had our kind of sword and sorcery, we had kind of an industrial fantasy, and this is, how would you describe it, a dystopian fantasy or an alternate world fantasy?
I would say it's almost urban fantasy.
Urban, yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised this one was also labeled as romantasy. Because to me, as I've been learning the genre, I literally thought it was uh, fantasy, fairies, elves, dragons, gnomes, that genre. But I didn't realize it extended to wares and vampires.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised as well that this, fantasy is a broad umbrella.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And so,
very, very interesting.
yeah.
But really, really liked this first page with that snarky character. Great setting the scene, all of that stuff that we said. So, all right.
All right. Did we say we didn't say what the
say
book
what it
was?
is. We didn't say what it was. This is The Bride by Ali Hazelwood. And it was good. I do recommend it. It just has a weird kink in it.
Yeah. I agree.
And at this point in the book tasting, we're enjoying our beverages quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I'm almost done.
I can tell.
All right.
Okay, moving on to the next one.
We're going to hit the last one here. All right, this doesn't have a prologue. It just starts as chapter 1. But this also is one of those books like Fourth Wing, that the beginning of every chapter has like a little excerpt from like a reading that is contextually appropriate in the world. I don't know how else to say that. Okay. The infection comes as a fever in the night. If you take ill, watch the veins, the tributary of blood traveling down the arms. If they remain as they ever did, you have nothing to fear. If the blood darkens to an inky black, the infection has taken hold. The infection comes as a fever in the night. I was 9 the first time the physicians came to the house. My uncle and his men were away. My cousin Ione and her brothers played loudly in the kitchen, and my aunt did not hear the pounding at the door until the first man in white robes was already in the parlor. She did not have time to hide me. I was asleep, resting like a cat in the window. When she shook me awake, her voice was thick with fear. Go to the wood, she whispered, unlatching the window and gently pushing me through the casement to the ground below. I did not fall onto warm summer grass. My head struck stone, and I blinked, dizzy nausea casting dark shapes across my vision, my head haloed in red, sticky warmth. I heard them in the house, their steps heavy with sinister intent. Get up, called the voice in my head. Get up, Elsbeth. I pulled myself into a rickety stance, desperate for the tree line just beyond the garden. Mist enveloped me, and even though I did not have my charm in my pocket, I ran towards the trees. But the pain in my head was too great. I fell again, blood seeping down my neck. They're going to catch me, I cried, my mind lost to fear. They're going to kill me. No one is going to hurt you, child, he snarled. Now get up. I tried, fiercely I tried, but the damage to my head was too great. And after 5 desperate steps, the edge of the wood so close I could smell it, I fell to the dirt in a cold, lifeless faint. I know now what happened next was not a dream. It couldn't have been. People don't dream when they faint. I didn't dream at all, but I don't know what else to call it. In the dream, the mist seeped into me, thick and dark. I was in my aunt's garden, just as I had been a moment ago. I could hear and see, smell the air, feel the dirt beneath my head, but I was frozen unable to move.
Ooh, good point to end as well.
Yeah, I just pick one when I read it.
Okay. So,
So
so Romantasy again.
this is Romantasy again.
Fascinating.
Yeah. This one, I'll just, because, people are, I don't know that anyone's going to guess this. This is also a pretty popular one. It's called One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig.
Mm.
And it is, for me, I find this book difficult to describe. It is romantasy, solidly. It is a difficult to describe book. It's very interesting. It has an interesting magical system. This is one where the love interests don't know each other at the beginning of the book. They meet and then they team up. And then a relationship develops from their team up. As they're both kind of secretly working against some bad guys. Let's say it that way, right?
Okay.
There's really interesting magical system. It's definitely like more of a kingdom fantasy, right? There's no dragons, but it's like kingdoms, gods, magic, that type of fantasy. But still, I think that they have houses, and I think they have like gas systems, and it's not like it's a little industrialized, but not a ton.
So, oh, what was the book you gave me? Assistant to the Villain.
Yeah.
So that one, that one was such
I
a
love
cheat on the magical system and everything. Where it's like we just want running water, magic.
Yep. Not like that. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. This one is complex. I will say it this way. It is complex. There is romance. I think with some romantasy, you read because of the romance and the plot is second, and if there are plot holes, you're like, whatever, I don't really care, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
just a structure for the romance.
I want to know that the couple are going to get together, and the plots. It's not that the plot's in the way, but you really are just kind of like, I just want to know if they're going to hook up.
Yeah. This one is, you care about that, and it's really like there is a romance and you care about the romance a lot, but there's also like things going on with the character at a deep like personal level that you also really care about. And you really like, she has character growth dependent that's separate from her relationship. She is her own person fighting her own demons. It's somewhat literally, there's a being living inside her head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is not necessarily evil, but it's also every time she uses her magic, and her magic can help save her, and magic can do all this stuff, but every time she uses her magic, that being that's in her head gets more power and starts taking over her mind and her body. Right? So every time she does this, she loses herself. So she's also like, she's playing with who she is, and also like is in a relationship and wants to be in this relationship, and there's a person living in her head while she's in a relationship. It's really, really, really good. I highly recommend One Dark Window. I picked these books. I liked all of them.
Very cool. I liked that. That was good. That was really good. And it had a nice kind of spooky feel to it. So, which I would,
spooky.
and I think I think I've seen this book because I'm visualizing a cover in my head pretty easily. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways. Okay.
Seeing the World mentions that Assistant to the Villain is humor romantasy, and that she loves that book.
It is a fun book. I agree. It's a fun book. So, all right. Anything else with this genre to talk about? Which we're going to save until next week because we're diving deeper.
Yeah. I would say if you're watching this, if you're in the chat right now or you're watching it, please drop a note about what romantasy we should read. What should we have put on here? Do you like our picks? Have you read the books that we chose? Do you like them? Do you not like them? And again, what are we missing here? What like cut do we need to go explore? Because Theresa and I and Morgan as well, she couldn't make it tonight, but we love reading and we love learning. So let us know your recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put these books in the description so you can pop in and find them again if you want to read them. I really did enjoy Fourth Wing. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you like dragons, it's gold. And if you like vampires and werewolves and all those dynamics, The Bride is actually very good.
Yeah, it is super snarky and hilarious.
It is. It's laugh out loud funny. So, all right. I think that's it. We're going to call it a night. So, thank you everybody for joining us and take care. Join us next week. We're going to deep dive into Romantasy. Bye.
Stay sexy out there.